Mahomes back, throws. It is incomplete, picked off by the Lions. Brian Branch with it left side. He's gone, baby. He's going to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Deflected in the air, Branch ran under it, and he took it all the way back.
Welcome to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. I am Tim Twentyman. He is the Hall of Famer, Mike O'Hara.
You just won't let it go.
Who has joined me for the key matchup segment that we do every week. And Mike, look, week 16 of the NFL, week 18, of the NFL. But I think everybody's kind of looking forward to week 19, right? But first and foremost, there is a little something to play for this week. You expect the starters, you expect them, to kind of go and try to get this win. And is it the right move?
Yeah, I think so. I would. That's what I would do. That's why I judge how I judge things, what I do it. Not that I'm a coach or anything, but I would do that. And look, there are players who have things that's, things at stake, bonuses and stuff like that. The team has things at stake, and go out there with those fans at Ford Field and put on a show for them.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's still a possibility to get the number 2 seed. I know it probably isn't, the most likely thing, but look, Dallas and Philadelphia are on the road. You've been in this, covering this league a long time. I'm sure you've seen stranger things happen the last week of the season.
Just last week.
Yeah, to get things to into playoff shape.
No, absolutely.
So look, they can get the number 2 seed with a win, and I think there's also a little part of wanting to get the bad taste out of your mouth from last week, right? Go into the playoffs on a good note, playing good football, and then you're off and running.
Yeah, and if they they play their reserves and they lose, then they go into the playoffs with a 2-game losing streak. Not that really means everything, but everything means something in my opinion. That's why you're out there. If it didn't mean anything, you wouldn't be out there. And so I think you weigh it and you balance it and you go, what's best for me and what's best for my team? And it's to play your players to a certain degree.
Well, if they're going to get a win, they've got to win some of these key matchups that we're going to go through.
Okay.
And let's start with the first one. And to me, it's a big one. We saw this matchup play out a couple weeks ago quite a bit. It's Cam Sutton, cornerback for the Detroit Lions, versus Justin Jefferson, who's one of the best receivers in the game. A couple weeks ago, Jefferson, after 6 catches, 141 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
A few of those were on Sutton. The touchdown was on Sutton where he kind of slipped and fell. But that to me is a really huge matchup this week, and they've got to find a way to limit Jefferson a little bit more. You're not ever going to stop him. Like, he's a really good player and he's going to go make plays. We saw that against double teams, but it's the big plays. It's the touchdowns. Those are the things that you got to limit with
Yeah,
him.
he had a game against the Lions last year where he had 220 yards or something like that, some amount of it. It's just amazing. I was looking at his chart before, this morning when we were putting this stuff together, and he started out the season before the injuries and all that. He had 150 yards, 159 yards, and 149 yards.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a guy who can move the ball down the field almost at ease, at will. And so he's probably 80% of himself right now. I don't think he's at full strength. And if I were him, I wouldn't want to open it all the way up and maybe aggravate that injury. You want get through this game clean. But I think he's like you said, he's a real load.
Is it worrisome at all for you that you had Jefferson with the 141 and then you saw what CeeDee Lamb with the 227 last week? Now, I know a lot of those came.
Well,
a chunk of them came on a 93-yard touchdown that probably shouldn't happen if Derek Barnes makes a play in the end zone there and Vildor doesn't fall down. But look, it happened. It happened. It's in the stat sheet. Is it a little bit worrisome? Would you like to see them handle a number 1 guy before they go into the playoffs?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, things carry over for you, I think, and now you're not going to get overconfident covering this guy, but at least if you do a representable job, you go into the playoff with a better feeling. At least I would.
Yeah, I'm 100%.
And if I'm your coaches and your position coach, the same thing.
100%
Get back
agree.
out there, cover him again.
And I suspect they'll play him a little bit different this week. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, talked a little bit this week about playing more physical, trying to get hands on him at the line of scrimmage. There's also some danger in doing that, but I would expect a lot of attention on him, especially with T.J. Hawkinson out for the year, and then Jordan Addison kind of still dealing with an ankle injury. I know he played last week, but I would expect them to really focus on Justin Jefferson and not letting him beat them.
Yeah, and we've been like watching these guys since March, and not training camp, but the early part of the workout system. I wouldn't realize how small Cam Sutton looks compared to other players, but he's tough. He competes hard. He's quick. He's got He's got some real skills, but you can't put size on a guy. You can't happen.
But no, you can put size on one guy, and that's Penei Sewell, because he is a low. Talk about tough.
We're done with this one.
And we're done with that one. Let's go on to the next one. I think that's...
I save these for posterity.
It's a good matchup to me is Penei Sewell versus Donnell Hunter. They're talented Pro Bowl defensive end, and it's Pro Bowler versus Pro Bowler. Congratulations to Penei Sewell, his second straight Pro Bowl nod. And look, you look 2 weeks ago, Penei got the better of the matchup. Donnell had a couple nice plays in the run game, but didn't have a sack on Penei Sewell, and so I thought like we've seen every week with Penei, he just lives up to the height, lives up to the matchup, and plays good ball.
And it's just so easy for him. It seems like look, we want you to run a down and out for 10 yards. We need a first down. What else? It's just he's just.
I'm pretty sure watching him, because every week on Friday we watch practice, and you see the offensive linemen take the go routes. Be part of the passing game. You watch him, he could play tight end in this league.
Absolutely.
And I think he could be really good at tight end.
Yeah, he might want to lose, 10 pounds or 20 or whatever. But no, I'm with you on that one. We saw that last game against the Dallas Cowboys last week, and he was on Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons couldn't draw a breath on him. He just had him locked up. He had to be thinking to himself, what's going on here? Yeah. I'm supposed to be doing that to him.
One of the best tackles in football.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's 3 years old? I mean, imagine
Maybe
that.
Not even that old.
And just imagine the future that young man has. And 1 quarterback hit, 4 hurries for Hunter in the last game. No sacks allowed in that matchup, though. So that's just going to be really the key this week. I thought last week there was a little bit of confusion up front at times, especially in the run game. I thought Jared got hit a few more times than they would like to see. So I think that those guys up front need kind of a bounce back performance, and I think Penei Sewell is one of the guys that can give it to him.
Yeah, and Hunter's a good player. He really is. He's had 15.5 sacks. He might add a couple more or not. The goal is for him to or not. But he's a really, really good ball player. And I'm sure you remember this right around the bye week, when Minnesota was really struggling. There was some talk about maybe trading him to Detroit.
Yeah.
Of course, there rumors are to trade him to everywhere.
Right.
Of course. Everyone
would take him.
Everybody would take him too. But he is a really good ball player.
He is, and that'll be an interesting matchup. They want to keep Jared clean, and pretty much just do what they did to Minnesota 2 weeks ago, where I thought the offensive line played really, really good, controlled that Brian Flores kind of blitzing, dropping scheme, and just played a clean game, and that's why they won the game.
And they've got so many pieces on offense that fit together that are just you can't stop this. If they're on their game, you can't stop them.
You can't.
They'll find because no, we'll throw it over here.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to run it there. It's amazing. It's the best offensive line. I'm sorry, it's the best offense I've seen with the Detroit Lions in all the years I've been covering this team. And I've seen some pretty good players.
You've seen a lot of good players, a lot of good offense. Speaking of good players, let's go on to the next matchup in this one. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown versus...
You want me to sign these or just get rid of them?
Josh Metellus. We're just going to keep them right here for prosperity. I like this.
Okay.
Right there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Metellus. You look at 2 weeks ago, week 16, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 12 catches on 14 targets, 106 yards, a touchdown. It was vintage Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about the 12 catches, I went and looked on Pro Football Focus against 8 different defenders.
Really?
I mean, they threw the kitchen sink at trying to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown and couldn't. But their nickel cornerback is Josh Metellus. That's who's probably going to see St. Brown the most. And I think you look at the numbers with Metellus, he's been targeted 87 times this year. He's allowed 77 receptions on those 87 targets, 4 touchdowns, 109.6 passer rating. Let's
make it 110.
That's advantage St. Brown and the Lions.
Wasn't a kid from Michigan, Metellus?
Is a kid from Michigan, Peach? Yeah, he is. The kid from Michigan.
6th round draft pick. He's sort of like the a defensive back's version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He draft low, worked his way up.
Yeah.
And this is his first year as a full-time starter too. So he's made some strides, and there's something they must like in him.
And it's good after that kind of little mini lull for St. Brown. And we call 4 catches, 3 catches a lull because we just get so used to him catching 8, 9, 10 balls, 100 yards that it's good to see him back to being, what he is. And you'd love to see him finish out the season that way too, have a big game and really be humming going into the playoffs.
I looked this up this morning, Tim. He had 917 or 912 receiving yards as a rookie. Boosted that up to 1,100 and something the second year. And now he's got 13-11 with a game to go. So he has really worked at his craft. He came in good and he wanted to get better. Okay, got better still. And you know what? He'll probably be doing this until he's in the league 10 or 12 years. He'll always be looking for another edge.
I think he's a first alternate in the Pro Bowl. You consider that a little bit of a snub?
Yeah, I do. Of course I do. But, look, he's recognized out there. There's so many wide receivers that they're almost interchangeable to some degree. He's a little different because he's not quite as tall, not quite as rangy, but boy, is he productive and he gets the job done. And look, like I said, look how he's improved over in a 3-year span.
Yeah, it's been significant.
Let's put it this way: I'd rather go into a game with him than without him.
100%.
Yeah, and I don't want to look for a replacement at the last minute.
All right, Minnesota made a decision this week. They're going to start Nick Mullens at quarterback.
Just a minute.
You put this matchup together because obviously of what happened 2 weeks ago and Kerby Joseph being able to pick him off twice. Mullens threw 4 interceptions in the contest. But look, when you look at Kerby, he's the first player since Bobby Watkins in 82 and 83. You remember him?
Yeah.
We get a scouting report.
Yeah.
No, he's the first player to have 4
Bobby
interceptions
Watkins, second-round draft pick.
In his first 2 seasons. So, we talk about Amon-Ra with the production. Here's a guy who's also been productive.
So
Kerby
8
Joseph.
total.
Yeah.
I've got that right. Amazing.
8 interceptions in 2 years. And it just, to me, with what's going on in Minnesota, we're going to talk to Mark Craig from the Minneapolis Star Tribune about that matchup, and we get into that a little bit just about the backup quarterback job. But it just goes to show how valuable a guy like Teddy Bridgewater can be in this league,
sure.
Right? An established veteran guy who's won games, has a consistent, record of production. Yeah. Now, obviously, we haven't seen Teddy; he hasn't had to play, but this situation in Minnesota, it's a good football team on the cusp of making the playoffs, but turnovers have just been an issue in it, and it's really been at the quarterback position.
It kind of tells you where they are when they want a little more stability at quarterback, and they get a guy who had two touchdown passes and 4 interceptions 2 weeks ago.
To give you the stability, right?
Now he wants you to go out there and be stable again.
You look at Kerby, though,
yeah.
And this is going to be interesting, I think, if and when we see C.J. Gardner-Johnson, what they're going to do there, because Ifeatu Melifonwu was playing so well. Yep. You look at the production with Kerby, and he's playing well. And now you've got a guy who is a proven vet who led the league in interceptions last year with 6, who can play nickel, he can play safety, he can play all over. What are they going to do there? How are they going to work all 3 of those guys? I think that'll be very interesting to watch as they go into the playoffs.
Well, I don't have any doubt that Dan Campbell will satisfy everybody, and if they don't like it, just wait your turn and you'll get your chance to play. And I think it'll be fair, and I think it'll be thought out, and I think it'll be good. I mean, what has he done with a player and all this in the 3 years he's been here? Then you go, why did he do that? Right. I think he's got a real good feeling for that, and I think it's the right thing to do. You just can't have a guy who's been out for 15 weeks just walk in and take your job.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No, I think they're going to work him in.
Especially if it's a good player.
Yeah, and look, Ifeatu Melifonwu and Kerby Joseph have been playing good football. So I think it'll be fun to see what kind of maybe dime 3 safety packages they kind of put together, substitute a linebacker for a safety, move Melifonwu around a little bit. It'll just be really interesting. And I think it's advantage Lions, too, because what they decide to do, there isn't going to be any tape on it. Yeah. You're not going to be able to prepare for it if you're an opposing offense going into the playoffs, whether that's the Rams or Packers or whoever it is. You're just going to basically have to guess on what they're going to do, how it looks, and so I think that's advantage Lions.
A couple of things here. These 3 guys we're talking about, you have range with all of them. They have guys with wingspan, and they can move, they can run, they can get up in the air, and they can get to the ball. Old saying I heard a long time ago is, if you want to go fishing, go where the fish, or if you want to catch fish, go where the fish are. That's where the fish are.
I like it. All right, let's finish with this one. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery versus that Vikings front 7. And when you look at Gibbs and Montgomery, I mean, are they the best duo in football? Is there a better one out there?
I can't imagine another one that's better.
Most certain A-Chain in Miami, you can maybe make an argument, but I think this is the most dynamic backfield duo in the league, and I think they have a chance to do something really special this week. I mean, you look at Montgomery's 25 yards away from 1,000. Gibbs is a little bit further. He's got 85 to 1,000, but if they become both 1,000-yard rushers, they'll be the first duo, the sixth duo to do it in league history, first since 2009 in Carolina. I mean, that's some pretty special stuff, Mike.
Yeah, it is, and then they can do other things too. We think of Montgomery just as a power runner. Well, he powered his way to a 75-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, did you see that move he put on that 75-yard and that cut to the left? And then he was gone. Yeah,
no, he was gone absolutely. And Jamar is he's got the explosiveness that you're looking for it. You don't always get it, but they've got it in him. And plus, he can do things out of the backfield with his hands.
And you look at 2 weeks ago, I mean, they went into that game knowing that was their bread and butter. That's where they had the advantage. They rushed it 36 times in that game for 143 yards. Yeah. When they can establish a run like that, then the play action comes, and then you can get the ball to all those weapons on the outside. I just think they're going to want to establish that run, and I think they both do get 1,000. I think Gibbs is going to bust out a run. He's going to be able to get 85. I think, obviously, Montgomery stays healthy. 25 is kind of a foregone conclusion the way he's been playing. The Vikings are ninth against the run. They've only allowed 100 per game on average, but just with what Detroit did 2 weeks ago, I think that's advantage Lions.
No, I would agree with you. And look, it's a nice landmark for them. It's a nice thing for the organization. It's nice for the offensive linemen. There's nothing bad about it. Really.
Nothing bad. So look, it's week 18. Fun times. Week 18 is already established in week 19. A little bit different last year, right? Needed a win, needed some stuff to happen. It's a little nicer knowing that you're going to be at Ford Field. Don't know the time yet. It's either going to be next week, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. But first, take care of business here. Get the bad taste out of your mouth from Dallas.
That's going to be hard.
Go into this game with a little bit of momentum, and then get ready for whoever you're going to play. He is Mike O'Hara. I am Tim Twentyman. That was key matchups for this week's game against Minnesota. Welcome back to the 20-Minute in the Huddle podcast, and I am very happy to welcome in Mark Craig, who does a great job covering everything Minnesota Vikings for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. Mark, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's really, really strange and kind of cool to see the Lions where they are right now, I think.
Yeah, first division title in 30 years. I know we were talking a little bit before we started taping here. That's a long time to go without a division title in a home playoff game, but it's a fun atmosphere, obviously, here. A little different time, and it's fun from our end covering it. I know you've covered winning football. You've covered division titles. There's just something special about a season like that and a playoff run, isn't there?
Yeah, the Vikings, my favorite season probably is the Brett Favre season in 2009, just, a magical season. Last year was magical, but just kind of had that feeling like, can they do it in the playoffs? And that team, their defense was just, wasn't really up to snuff. And but the difference with the Lions is like last year when the Vikings got to that playoff game, they were the 3 seed, just had this upset. Detroit, I think, will be a different story with that defense and just the way that that mentality that they have right now.
Obviously it's been a tough season for Minnesota, and it really just started when Kirk Cousins suffered the Achilles injury. 4 different starters at quarterback. You guys have named Nick Mullens this week, but Mark, doesn't it just go to show just how important that backup quarterback job is in the NFL, and how teams, at least the good ones, have a really steady backup plan in place, maybe invest in that position? I just look at the example in Detroit with Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who's played a ton of football. Now they obviously haven't needed him, but what the Vikings are going through, does that just kind of show the importance of that backup quarterback position, because you just never know?
Yeah, it shows that, but it also shows like turnovers. I mean, I look at Cleveland. I look at Cleveland was the first team to make the playoffs with the 4 quarterbacks starting multiple games. The Vikings have now done that with Jaron Hall starting against the Packers this second time. The Browns have 35 turnovers, most in the league. You know, the Vikings have multiple games. They got 32 turnovers now. You know, Kirk was playing well, but there was still, right from the, 6-7 minutes into the game, they had a strange turnover where the right guard swings his arm back and knocks the ball out of Kirk's hands, and they fumble against the Buccaneers. 3 turnovers in that first half, including Kirk throwing one at the goal line right before halftime. So yeah, Kirk was playing well, but Kirk also was 4-4 and had turned the ball over 9 times. Not all his fault, but not all the fault of the other guys who followed him. But yeah, having that plan, it's also hard to have that plan whenever your quarterback's making a ton of money.
Yeah,
and Kirk was so durable. Kirk not only started every game or was available for every game, except he had COVID in 2021 when they went to play Green Bay at the end of the year. But you never saw his backup. In fact, I think one of them was here for an entire year and didn't even play. Mannion hardly played. The thought was Mullens could rise to the occasion, but I don't know that he has the arm strength, as you found out. The Lions fans found out to be that guy. So it's valuable, but they also got to just hang on to the ball.
With Mullens playing this week, we saw a couple weeks ago in Week 16 the 4 interceptions, obviously a critical part of that game. Just what does he have to do different besides the obvious of just not throwing interception? But how does the offense maybe change a little bit? You saw them rush for only 17 yards in that game. Is that something maybe they have to do a little bit more of to help him out, or kind of what's the change that you expect 2 weeks later?
I guess being one of the older guys covering the league now, feels like it. There's just like when Detroit came in there, my feeling is that they won that game with that offensive line. I mean, you could say that. I mean, the Vikings obviously they threw the ball. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a quarterback be as careless with the ball as he was in that game. I mean, Brett Favre would have some games like that, but Brett would also throw 4 or 5 or 10 touchdowns. I think they do need to run the ball, but I don't think they have the ability to run the ball. They don't have the mentality. They don't have the strength, the determination up front. They don't have the running back. I think that the feeling here is, and I don't blame them for letting Dalvin Cook go. I think Dalvin was spent. But everyone made fun of the Lions when they used their top 8 in the top 18. They pick a running back. Hello, Detroit. Dan Campbell. Old school, pat him on the head. Then he picks a middle linebacker. And then he gets a tight end. It's just like, well, what are the Lions doing? Well, the Lions are doing what the Vikings could do right now if they had the personnel and the mentality. Run the ball, don't throw it away, but they can't run it. You would like to think that they would run the ball, but I don't think they'll be able to. And that puts a lot of pressure on Mullens, and he's got to not turn the ball over. After the Bengals game, when he threw, they were in field goal range twice right before halftime, he threw 2 interceptions, and one of them he basically was getting sacked, and he handed it to the defensive tackle, and they called it an interception because it never touched the ground, but it was kind of the weirdest interception you'll see. Talked all about, not turning the ball over. He goes against Detroit, and there was just no care given to the ball whatsoever. So I don't believe that he's going to change. So they'll be there for the taking if the Lions want them.
And again, I'm speaking with Mark. Craig does a great job covering the Minnesota Vikings for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. Mark, what's the difficulties of playing a team, twice in 3 weeks?
I guess you can't match their talent. The Vikings also, they have had a lot of injuries, but a lot of teams have, obviously. It used to be, I know when Jared Goff, there were some games when he would come to the Metro or come to the U.S. Bank Stadium. Zimmer was the coach, and they go after him, and some rough times for him. There was also one in Los Angeles where he had a perfect passer rating against the Vikings, and it was he had like 5 touchdowns and I think 4 or 5 incompletions. But they were able to knock him down and put him on his back. And, when you can do that to a guy that doesn't move like he does, changes the game. But they just, Flores wasn't able to do that. That's, another reason. Not only could Detroit run the ball, but they protected Goff. And when Goff gets that protection, he's gonna be a guy you can win a lot of games with. So yeah, it comes down to that. The difficulty, you can look for all these little hidden things, but the Lions are just a better team. They're healthier, they're tougher, and I feel like they still have something to play for. Although I would imagine that if they didn't have anything to play for, you could tell me better than I could tell you, but Dan Campbell would sort of have that Coughlin mentality of we're going to play it hard and no matter what.
Yeah, 100%. And I think just the way things happened in Dallas last week for Detroit, losing that game in that fashion, I think you want to go into the playoffs, with a little bit of momentum. You want to get that bad taste out of your mouth a little bit. And look, how unlikely it might be. Detroit beats Minnesota, and Philadelphia loses in New York, and Dallas loses in Washington. Probably unlikely, but we've seen crazier things. You've been doing this a long time. I know you've seen crazier things happen the last week of the season. So I think you got to play your guys, and you're in the 1 o'clock hour. So you play to win. You win that game, and then you see what happens. And what's better than one home playoff game? Well, 2 home playoff games. So I think that's the approach for Detroit. But look, Minnesota, how unlikely it might be too, is still fighting for something as well. Has that been the mentality this week? And just how motivated have you sensed Kevin O'Connell and those guys this week about going to Detroit and keeping their hopes alive?
It has sort of a deflated feeling here. I don't know what, we don't see enough of practice to really know what they're not really a team that practices that hard. They tend to try to preserve the guys, and so my sense is that it's, they're going to try. They're not going to just go out there and lay down. But I think there's a reservation that it's over. But I think even saying that, you look at for me, I sort of think that Detroit's 2023 season might have started in Green Bay when they went there and knocked Rodgers out of the playoffs. Just feel like talking about, well, if they lose, they get a better draft pick. My feeling is, I know Kevin O'Connell is not in trouble, shouldn't be in trouble of losing his job, but these things add up, and you don't want to give up or put on tape what they did against Detroit, Green Bay, the Bears. A few weeks before that, when they, the defense was still, playing extremely well, and they held them to 4 field goals and lost 12-10. So I think you got to sort of start turning the tide, because the division is running past them right now.
Yeah, 100%. Vikings will be looking to finish this thing strong. I know Detroit will be looking to finish the regular season strong, and then get that first playoff home game in 30 years. It should be fun here, but first off, it's Minnesota on Sunday. Mark, thanks for joining me. I appreciate the time. Safe travels here to Detroit, and I'll make sure I stop by and say hello.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mark. Welcome back to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I am very happy to welcome in Ifeatu Melifonwu, third-year safety, who is having a heck of a season. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, just what kind of a whirlwind has this been for you the last month or so? Obviously inserted into the starting lineup, and then you've just taken off, Ifeatu. I mean, the production that you're having, you become a guy that you really can't take off the field.
I don't know if it's much of a whirlwind. I'm just, grateful and blessed, and I just thank God that I'm, finally healthy, and getting an opportunity to show what I can do. So I feel like I haven't let it get to me too much. I just every week I'm just looking forward to going out and playing and improving and getting better.
Health was the biggest thing, right? That was the biggest thing holding you back. It wasn't ever an issue of talent development, anything like that. It was just needing to be consistently healthy. You dealt with some injuries and just didn't get that practice time, that playing time. And now that you've been healthy, this is the player that you've always been, right? We're just now getting an opportunity to see it.
Yeah, I can definitely agree to that. Like you said, I just haven't been available. And I think I got asked on one interview, like after the Broncos, like, am I surprised by, like, have I surprised, or what did I learn new about myself? And I said nothing, because like this is stuff I knew I could do. My teammates at Syracuse knew I could do this. My brother knew I could do this. My friends and even my teammates like knew these are things I could do, and I just haven't been able to show it. And now I finally am.
You came in playing cornerback in college. You made the switch to safety. At what point, how long do you think it took you once you moved over to safety to be like, okay, I like this kind of clicks, I got this? Was it immediate? Did it take a little time adjustment?
No, it definitely wasn't immediate, because honestly, it was a hard decision, like switching over. It was something I had never done before, because in college I only played corner.
Right.
So I kind of had to like wrap my head around like just the position change. And then last year when I switched positions, I was in and out of injuries, so I never really, it like stunted my development at the position, so I never really got comfortable. And then I would say probably like after OTAs and then into the start of training camp is when I felt like I was really comfortable at it. And then obviously getting them actual game reps, live reps, I feel like I got way more comfortable, and like I feel like the game has slowed down a bit. Well, slowed down a lot, but I just feel like there's still improvements I need to make. I've really only played safety for like a year and a half. If you include,
it's amazing
like
to
year.
Think about with how well you're playing it right now. I mean, that ceiling.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting comfortable at it. I'm comfortable now, and it's slowing down. But obviously, there's still improvements I can make, and I look forward to playing and getting better at it.
How much of an advantage is it going to be for you guys with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, on his way back, and just maybe some of the packages that you can put together, some of the three safety looks, some dime stuff, some stuff that defense or opposing offenses haven't seen, and how much of an advantage can that be to create some packages with having three guys along with Kerby Joseph that can play the position at a really elite level?
Yeah, it's definitely an advantage. Just brings a lot of different looks and versatility. I can't speak too much on the different packages and stuff like that, but it definitely brings a different look, and you can do a lot of things when you have a lot of good DBs and good players. You can put them in different places and things like that.
Good problem to have, right?
Yeah,
good play. Not too many good players at one position.
Right.
Most teams would love to have the problem. Just talk about the clinching of the playoffs. You were here a couple years ago, 3 wins, saw the improvement, but just from where you guys have gone over the last 3 years, just what was that feeling like in Minnesota to clinch that, having gone through some of the rough times when you first got here to now where it is now, and you being such a big part of it?
Not even so much just me being a big part of it. It was just a good feeling just to, where we came from my rookie year to where we are now. It was just a great feeling in the locker room and just even on the field after the game. But I feel like everyone had that kind of sense of like, the celebration wasn't too long, to be honest. It was really that locker room. Wasn't even really on the plane like that. No. It was kind of just like, that's what we wanted, that's what the goal was, but we had our eyes on playoffs and everything like that, like and advancing in seeds and everything. So it was just like we accomplished that, but then what's next? Yeah, what's next? That's the first check mark of hopefully our many more. Exactly. Justin Jefferson, obviously a terrific talent, had 141 yards, a touchdown. Like, this is the NFL. Guys are going to make plays on that side of the ball. But just how special of a talent is he? How difficult is he to prepare for? I mean, yeah, he's a good player, and good players, they make plays. Like, no matter how much you scheme for them and things like that, they're going to find a way to make plays. And I think it's just about how we bounce back and how we respond to it. And I feel like the DBs responded well. We had 4 interceptions, so I mean, it's like, he's a good player. He's a great player, but we just got to bounce back and next play mentality, and that's really that. It's going to be Nick Mullens again.
you go into this game thinking that there might be an opportunity to snag, one or two, that ball is probably going to come your way and you're going to get an opportunity to make a big play?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that every week, though. Like, that's the mentality you got to have every week. Like, the ball's in the air, it's mine, no matter who's the quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, that's always the mentality, regardless of the QB.
Have you let yourself think of what Ford Field is going to be like next week? Not only this week, but I think the ramp up to next week, whether it's Los Angeles, whether it's Green Bay, just what that atmosphere is like and how starved this fan base has been at for 30 years to run out of that tunnel. Have you let yourself maybe even think about that at all?
I honestly, like, I know in the back of my head, like, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be a crazy thing to see, but like, I'm not really focused on that. I'm not looking too much. Like, we got one more game, the end of the season, so I'm kind of focused on that. And I'll think about the other stuff later, to be honest.
Well, take care of business first on Sunday. Ifeatu Melifonwu playing some terrific football right now. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me.